Good afternoon guys, I'm Chris and welcome back to this Wednesday's episode of Rift Amps. Right, valve state update, and so I did the recap, all the electrolytics, they've arrived, they've all been installed. Chassis back, can't even talk now, PCB back in the chassis, and still no improvement, although a slight reduction in hum, so that cap that we saw definitely needed doing. Started taking some voltage measurements. Here's the schematic, 2-page schematic, just checking things out. And first thing I noticed was, here's your rail voltage. So we've got plus 45 this side, minus 45 this side, okay. But then as we come to what actually feeds the ICs, one side plus 17, other was negative 22, and they should both be plus or minus 15 volts. So it's a problem with the rails in the amp. A little bit of testing and confirming. The two Zener diodes, replaced those. They are there, as you can just see. And our voltages came back to 15.8, I think, each side. Sorry, Sol's just off in the corner. Solid State Solomon helping me out today. So that fixed that issue, but the amp is still humming and the still low output. Something isn't right or wasn't right. So next thing, when you've got a problem like that, my next stage is always signal tracing. So inject a signal into the front end and we follow it through. And we did that all the way through the preamp schematic and the output stage. And we can confirm that there is signal flow all the way through. Where the problem was lying was the very first gain stage. We could see our signal coming in here. You turn the amp on and our signal pretty much disappeared by the time it got to pin 5 of this IC, which was really interesting. You turn the amp off and the signal appeared, but we couldn't find a short to ground. I did actually replace both C1 and R2 just in case. We pulled them out for testing and then just replaced them. So we then did some further testing, and we actually found that here's the power supply for this IC. Here's your rail voltage coming in, and we found that the negative rail at this point here of this cap, this 22 microfarad cap, actually measured a direct short to ground, and it was the cap over here, right over here. Now that was a different cap to the other ones in the amp. Here it is, and this isn't one that I had replaced, but someone else had been in before and had replaced that cap. So maybe someone else was already chasing this fault. I don't know. Replaced that cap, but I did have another TLO to hand, so we pulled the other IC out. I've installed a socket and I've put my new TLO in, or I did. It's actually a slightly later one. It's a TL072 ACP, and the amp has simply come back to life. So I'm going to show that to you on the scope. We're going to swap the two ICs back and forth so you can see, hello everyone, what's going on. So I'll show you my little socket down there. There it is. So we're going to install the original IC back into the amp. Here it is, TL072 CP. We'll get that. Is the amp off? No, the amp is on. Let's turn it off. We'll get that into its socket, just like that. So that's now in. Bring you over to the scope. We've already got a signal running into the front end. Turn the amp on. And that's our maximum output, 1.6 volts into 8 ohms, which puts us at around half a watt. So definitely a problem there. What I'm going to do now, with the amp still on, I'm going to pull the old chip out. Don't short, don't short, don't short. There you go, that's now out. And we'll put the new one in, just confirm that, that's the TL072 ACP. We'll put that in. It's not even fully seated. We'll bring it over and you can see we now have a lovely output, and that is showing 23.6 volts into 8 ohms, which is around 69 watts. And if I turn the volume control up, we do actually get a little bit more output. For 80 watts, which this thing is rated at, we're looking at 25.1, 25.2. Well, there you go. So 25.2, 25.6, about there. We called it 25.5. We're getting 81.3 watts now. There you go. So confirm we had a faulty IC in the amp, along with those then a diode. So our working theory is that one of those diodes started to fail, caused the failure of the TLO, and that's it really. Not much else to it. We did also find, upon further inspection, an absolute ton of cracked solder joints, which almost micro cracks, really difficult to see. But when you shine your phone torch on them, you can kind of see the shadow. So we reflowed all of those as well, and it's now working fine. I don't really know what else to report on this, but there you go. So I'll just show you. Yeah. Right, so we're in the normal channel now. If I go to, I'll put it there. Here's the crunch switch. Nice symmetrical crunch there. Yeah, treble control. Mid control, sorry. Treble control, bass control. There you go. And we go to the second channel. There it is, the overdrive channel. All working fine. Well, that one's still a bit dirty. That's the contour control, so we need to get that cleaned up. But the amp is working and it's pretty much fixed. So I'm just going to go through, do the rest of the service, and then the customer, get that out of the way, can have it back. Right, Q&A time then. First things, before we get going, weather update. It is awful out there. It's cold, it's really wet, miserable, grey skies, not nice weather whatsoever, which is a shame. And I'm racing this weekend, so I'm really hoping that this all passes over and we get a dry 6-hour race at Silverstone, which I will tell you all about later on. Anyway, loads of comments and questions this week. Not as many as last week's video, but we will do quite a few and we will get through them. Starting with Mr. Burtonshaw, who commented on a video from quite a while back on a Fender Champ that came in. I think it was one of the ATB amps. Anyway, he said, "Hey hi ho, great video. I'd like to ask a belated question if I may. Did you rewire the mains so the live went to the fuse tip first? Does it matter?" Yes, I would have done. And does it matter? Yes, it does for UK law. That's the way it has been done. If you look back in my videos, I'll try and put a link in the description, but I probably forget. I did do a video on mains wiring for amplifiers, explaining what you should do, what you shouldn't do, the differences between a captive mains cable and an IC cable, disconnect devices, how your fusing should be, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, but that's what I would do. The fuse tip is interesting. That means that if you ever replace the fuse and the amp is still connected to the wall socket, it means there's no chance of you getting a shock from the fuse if you pull it out. Obviously, you should disconnect from the mains anyway, but some people don't. So it's just another level of protection and idiot proofing, which, trust me, some musicians need. It's probably a sign of getting old. I am fast approaching a significant birthday. And it's not that I'm getting forgetful, it's that I'm convinced in my head that I've already done a job. So I could have sworn blind that I'd already trimmed the wires on this transformer and heat shrink them to protect them. I know I did. I remember doing it. Yet I'm looking at it now and it hasn't been done. That's why I'm doing it. But I did it. I remember doing it. And I guess that's just age, isn't it? It's just, you know, things merge into one. Too many amplifiers becoming, you know, yeah, it's all just coming together as one big forgetful memory now, I guess. And I think that's different, excuse me, to forgetting to do something. Whereas this is thinking I've already done it and remembering doing it, even though I haven't. So, does anyone else struggle with that? Is it just age? Or is there something wrong up here? I mean, there must be something wrong up here to work on amplifiers all day, right? But anyway, cracking on. I just need to merge those two together. Make sure I get these right. Maston Bro, regular commenter on the channel. Welcome back, mate. He says, "Hi, Chris. I noticed you're using a lot of yellow wire in your builds." Yeah, I love it. E.g. to pots and valve sockets. Wouldn't it be easier to use different colours to keep them apart? Or is there a reason why you're using yellow wire for those connections? There probably is, but I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's not entirely true. I mean, if we take this PR6 build, for example, there's a lot of yellow wire in there, but you can see from my tone stack wiring up here, I use white for treble, blue for mid, and brown for bass. And I do that on nearly every single amplifier I build. And I do use some other colours elsewhere. Red for high voltage, black for ground. If I've got a two-colour twist going to like a reverb or a tremolo control, I usually do brown and yellow just to separate them, make them easier to work out. My signal wires going to my output valves, I always do blue on the right-hand side, yellow on the left. But I know what you mean. Why isn't every colour different to help separate them? Well, to be honest with you, the way I design and lay out and build my amplifiers is very much what you would call the Fender way of doing things. My layouts are all pretty similar. The way I configure things right to left. Thought someone was at the door then. Don't know. And so it's very easy, you know, for anybody who's got even the most basic amplifier training to work out, well, that's a cathode connection, that's a plate or an anode connection, that's a grid wire. You can see where everything goes. There's not many hidden connections. And so if you understand amplifiers, and let's be honest, the Fender way of doing things is arguably the simplest and easiest to follow. You will be absolutely fine with it and it's not a problem. And yeah, so that's why I just use yellow, because I know where they're going. You know, any amp tech that's not an idiot will be able to work it out too without a schematic. It's not complex and it's not difficult. You know, and if the argument there is that if an amp tech who charges money to work on amplifiers can't simply follow a wire from pin 1 of a preamp socket to a 100k resistor, it's quite obvious that 100k resistor is your anode or your plate resistor, whatever you want to call it. Then why are they working on guitar amps, right? I mean, this is fundamental 101 stuff. And I don't mean that in a snobbish, you know, I'm better than everyone else way. That's absolutely not the case. But it's such a basic thing, such a fundamental beginner level thing, that it's not difficult to work out and understand. But I understand what you're saying. Yes, I could have different colours for anode, cathode and grid, absolutely, but it's just not necessary. And to be honest with you, the yellow stuff I buy, it's quite expensive, and I'm going to get onto that in a minute from another question. And so by buying it in bulk, it gets me quite a substantial discount. Gustavo Hernandez says, "Hablas mucho aburres," which I believe means you talk too much and it's boring. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, mate. Thankfully, YouTube has got loads of content creators out there. There are channels for everyone. So if you don't like the content I'm putting out, I will not be offended whatsoever if you go and watch something else. John Burns, regular commenter, welcome back, mate. He said, "Hi, Chris. I watched your race live on Saturday on the link you provided. Just a shame the camera's concentrated on the faster cars in the higher up classes in the same race. Great in-car video you've put up. Well done." Well, thank you very much. I'm afraid it's sometimes the way it goes. When you've got 40-odd cars on the grid, 4 different classes, 4 different championship battles, you can only film so much. So, I did get some screen time, but it's just the way it is. And as it was the championship finale, they're focusing on the important stories of the day, not me cruising around for a non-championship win. So it's just the way it is. But thank you for tuning in. I do appreciate that. It's just the way it is. You can't always predict stuff, how much screen time you're going to get. But, we did show something. It did show the yellow BMW, the one I was racing, breaking down with their suspension failure. So I'm still ribbing him about that. Always happens, never mind. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Newsgeek says, "How often do you order transformers? Would they be open to a consignment order? Commit to 100 pricing today, pay for 25 at the time when you need them." Well, even better than that, my new transformer winder does that standard anyway now. So the guy is brilliant and he's amazing and he's fantastic. And he said the bulk of their business now is winding for the guitar amp industry. So most of the machines are currently set up for that. In fact, they have one winding machine set up that just does reverb transformers, right? So he said they no longer do bulk pricing. They no longer do stacked pricing, as it were. They just do single pricing, and it's always based on the cheapest price. So whether I need 1 unit or 1,000, the price is the same, but it's always based on the 1,000 unit price. So you never pay more for smaller quantities, which is just incredible. That's amazing. So I don't know if you remember, a couple of months ago, I was moaning about the cost of my reverb transformers for the Ainsley Lister Signature, because it's a custom wind. It's an odd spec that's not available to buy off the shelf. And the price for the company that I was using, who originally did the design, who originally supplied them to me, that's correct, went through the roof, and it's ridiculous. And their lead times are long, and it's just clearly they didn't want the business anymore. They're too busy focusing on something else. Anyway, I sent one of those transformers to this new company. They reverse engineered it. They sent me some samples through, and they absolutely nailed it. It's perfect. It is bang on. A couple of other samples weren't quite there, but that's why they do samples. So you get to audition a couple, make sure that it hits all of your targets, stuff like that. And the price is so good. So I've just ordered some, and I've actually got enough money left over from what I would have spent if I'd gone to the other company to order some other units as well and to prototype some more stuff. So it's all good news, but yeah, very rarely do you get that. And also, I don't need to put the money up front. It's actually, I've got net 30 terms on it. So even better than I had previously, which for a small business in these tough times is amazing. Do you remember I was telling you about delays with Eminence speakers at the moment? Well, Andy Yates says, "I wonder if Eminence are busy building the new Carnivore speakers. I got one last week and tried it in my Imperial Mark II, obviously a Tone King, before it went in my SLO30. In spite of its high gain origins, it sounded fantastic in the Tone King." And there you go. "It inspired me to try my late 70 G12 Heritage 30 in the Tone King. I believe it was the other John Brown's videos that made me think their response graphs were similar. Tighter bass in the Carnivore, similar-ish flat response." Very interesting to hear about the carnivore. I've yet to try one. I'm sure next time I do an oddball order, I'll get a sample in and see what they're like. But I mean, the only Eminence one we use now is the Governor. Everything else is Celestian. But the reason for Eminence's delays is the same issue that they had during COVID, which is all of their magnets are manufactured in the Far East. Last I heard it was China, but it may now be somewhere else. And they are shipped and they across the Pacific, and they land in California. Now during COVID, all those magnets were stuck in, as far as I understand, they had 4 containers full of magnets stuck in a port in California, and they couldn't get them, so they couldn't manufacture that. So they had a huge delay. My understanding is that a similar thing has happened again, in that they are just waiting on magnets to arrive at their facility so they can continue production of certain speakers. So they're just behind on stuff. I don't know, and I'm not going to speculate whether it's a tariff thing or if there's another issue. I don't know. But that's currently the situation, is that they are waiting on deliveries of, it's not raw materials, is it? But assembly materials from their suppliers. No name on this comment, it just says user. He said, re the Friedman Runt 50, I think the cap across R15 is standard, as mine has the same, but with cleaner soldering. Due to the reliability issues associated with the silver microcaps, I replaced those with ceramic ones. There was apparently an issue with batches of filter caps that Friedman used, so I replaced those too. There was another comment as well saying that the original value was 0.68 microfarad, so 680 nanofarad, and then the factory mod was to update that to a 22 microfarad. So I believe it is a factory mod on those boards. So clearly the boards were manufactured, and then during production they've obviously changed that out after the fact. So there you go. Very interesting to know. Thank you. Chris Phillips says, I love the way your wiring stays put. I'm sure you've said before, would you mind restating the brand and model of wire you use for hookup? I have been using PTFE. It never looks as good as your wiring. That could be that you're just more experienced. Thank you, sir. That's part of the reason I don't use PTFE wire, is that it doesn't stay put in the way you want it to be. So I prefer 22 gauge single core cloth covered wire that's got a light wax impregnation to it. Now, here it is, the wire I use. Now, being that I'm a manufacturer in the UK/EU, we have to follow very strict rules about everything we use in our amplifier. It has to be ROSH compliant, it has to have a data sheet for it, I have to have a provable supply chain for it. So if at any time the authorities come along and say we need to, for an inspection, I have to be able to say, this is what I use, this is where I get it from, this is the data sheet for it from the manufacturer or the supplier, this is how much of it I use. I have to keep all of that on record, right? Now, commonly, we refer to this stuff as Gavit wire. Now, Gavit is actually a brand or a manufacturer who make cloth-covered wire. Now, they don't supply a data sheet for it, nor do they confirm that it's ROSH compliant. Now, I found a manufacturer in France who makes it for me, and they make it to my specification with the right amount of wax impregnation, although on the latest blue stuff I got, they did put too much in and it's quite stiff. As far as I know, they are the only company who supply the stuff that is compliant, so I can actually use it in brand new builds. And because of that, and because that's a competitive advantage over my competitors who possibly are using stuff which isn't compliant, I keep my cards quite close to my chest on that, and I'm sure you'll appreciate and understand that. If you're just a hobbyist at home, it doesn't matter. You can use other stuff. So you can go to any of the main suppliers. They will have a a cloth covered wire, single core. Sometimes they even do stranded as well that you can use, and it's easy to use but difficult to master, and it takes a very long time to learn how to do the bends and how to not overbend it. And the important thing with cloth wire is to not twist it when you're using it. So you try and keep the top side of it always facing up as you do your bends, like that. Whereas if you see what I've done there? So the side that's facing upwards has remained facing upwards always with my routing, and that's how you get these things to stay sort of straight. What a lot of people do is when they do especially their radius bends, is they'll naturally try and twist it as well, and that's when it all starts to go wrong and look horrible. Now, obviously, if you overbend this stuff, it's very difficult to get it back to a straight position. So it's kind of a one-shot deal, and this is why when you see people who are using cloth wire and they're not that experienced with it, it can look rather messy. But once you get it right, it can look incredible. So I'm a big fan of it. But yeah, I hope you'll understand that that's why, the reason why I won't tell people who the manufacturer is, because that's a competitive advantage for me, that I get to use it legally and they can't. Bailin, regular commenter, welcome back. He says, I have a real soft spot for those Marshall 8080s. My first Marshall was one I used it for years and subsequently ended up as my emergency backup. It sadly died using it as the emergency backup, so I gutted it and built a 2-channel 50-watt JCM 800 into the chassis, and it gets used all the time. Perfect for those gigs when a half stack is too much. Talking of homebrew builds, I'm just in the process of commissioning my 6th. Good for you. Every one of my push-pull builds has had phase squeal on first power up. Is there any way of predicting this before powering up? Yes, you need to get the data sheet for the transformer and see which side is the start of the winding, or what I believe is called the north winding direction. And that typically goes to the right-hand side bank of valves, assuming the transformer winder has connected the hookup wires correctly. It's not always the case. What most people do is simply leave both of their plate or anode wires long, and then you can always reverse them if you need to. So you can predict them if you've got the correct technical detail and the transformer winder is consistent and correct. Otherwise, it's simply a case of just leaving a little contingency plan in place, so you can then check it and confirm once you fire it up. Right, well, that is it then, guys. Just a couple of things to show you. I have been making some more boards, as I love to do. So that's another Ainsley Lister signature board, all done. So that's ready to go in the next build. And I've also almost finished the next Lazy J rebuild board. Just waiting on some 3K3 3-watt metal oxides for the B+ rail. Then that board is done, and then we can crack on with the rebuild on that particular amp, because that's the next one in the queue. PR6 is almost done. That chassis build's nearly done. I might, if all goes well this week, actually manage to get some time spent on the 100-watt basement build. But that's my own personal thing, so customer work takes priority. No update on the Friedman just yet. Didn't manage to get an update done in time for this video, but there may be something in the next one. So as always, please give this video a thumbs up. All of your comments and questions down below. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you haven't already. If you're feeling super generous like these guys have, why not join the channel or buy a t-shirt, and I will catch you all at the next one. It is actually a Sunday today. I've come in, I've got a couple of hours spare today, Sunday the 19th? Yeah, Sunday the 19th. a couple of hours spare. Mrs. Rift is often out and about doing something. So rather than sitting around at home, I've come into the workshop to do a little bit of tidying up, sorting out, get stuff done. The problem is it's quite busy at the moment. Got quite a few big projects on, and it's very easy for it to all fall apart and you start losing stuff. So you need to make sure you stay organised. So that's what I've come in to do today. That's what I'm doing, really. Just having a bit of a clean up, sort out, a reorganise, just so I don't fall down that rabbit hole, I guess. Is that what you call it? Anyway. But I want to show you something. You may have seen in some other footage that I've got some van seats sitting here. Why have I got the seats out of the van inside the workshop? Well, problem is they're not very comfy. And since I've done the crash repair on the van, I've decided to invest a little bit more money into it because, you know, when we do our long journeys going racing and stuff, those seats, they're quite old, they're not that comfy. And especially the bench seat is terrible when you've got a long journey. So I decided to put some improved seats in the van. Now, these vans, the seat bases do take quite a few different options. And one of them is the seats from the Mark 1 Audi TT, which almost bolt directly on to the seat bases. You just got to get the angle grinder out, grind off a single nub, and drill one more hole position in the seat base, and they literally bolt straight in. You swap over your seatbelt receiver and the pretensioner, so the airbag system still works correctly. But these seats, I do need to give them a quick clean, bolt straight in, and because we've got rid of the bench seat and put a single seat on the passenger side, we've got all this extra space here for activities and things. So really pleased. Now, you wouldn't believe the price of these. Absolutely unbelievable. They were, I got both of these seats for 25 quid, probably about $30. Seats from a Mark 1 Audi TT, a little bit grubby, so I do need to give them a shampoo and clean up. But yeah, they were in they're in amazing condition, really. Very pleased with all of it. Yeah, as I said, it's £12.50 each, 25 quid for both of them. The reason they're so cheap is that Audi TT owners remove these from their cars and upgrade to the leather seats that they buy from breakers or whatever, ones Audi TTs that have been crashed, you know, and the leather seats themselves can be bought very cheap as well. But these came up locally on Facebook Marketplace, 25 quid for both of them. And like I said, they pretty much bolt straight into the van. And I'm so impressed with how they are. I spin you around. You can get in and sit in them. Honestly, this is luxury for this van. This is unbelievable. So I'm very impressed. I mean, the lumbar support is great. The side bolsters are great. And you could, it's like going from the bottom of the range right to the top in terms of what this van can have anyway. So yeah, I am mega, mega pleased. When we go racing, I'm normally the passenger, Sold as the driving. But I've done both seats, really pleased with the way this has turned out. So the van has had some more upgrades, a couple more things I want to do to this van, actually. There's a little bit of rust repair I need to do. On the outside, it does look a bit scruffy, but mechanically, obviously I look after my vehicle, so it's pretty good. No aircon in this, no electric windows, but I'm not going to be adding those. But there's a couple of, you know, quality of life improvements I'd like to do to the van in the back as well. But yeah, very pleased with the way these seats have turned out. And I think you'll agree, a great upgrade. But I've now got to dispose of the old seats because obviously nobody wants them. I don't want them. Nobody else wants them. So I need to work out where to take them. The local recycling centre won't take them. So I'll probably just stick them on Facebook Marketplace, you know, for free. As long as you come and collect them, you can have them. That's probably what I will do. But yeah, what a great little upgrade for the van. Put new seats in it. I'd never thought of it before, but I'll show you the state of the old seats. Spin the camera around. I mean, they're just old, knackered. They're really not comfy at all. The other thing I thought I'd do is maybe I do clean them up. Maybe turn them into some sort of workshop furniture throughout the front, maybe. I don't know. I can't decide. But they're not comfy enough for long journeys. The driver's seat is knackered. The foam in the seat base is gone. So that's probably just going to get dismantled and chucked in the bin. But this bench seat, because it's got no arms on it and it's quite wide, it's pretty fun to sit down on and play guitar. So I wonder if there's something I could do with it. We'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's what I'm doing with these. Anyway, I need to crack on. I need to get this place cleaned up, sorted out. Make sure everything's organised, because it is a bit of a mess in here. We haven't got long till the Christmas break. Extra bonus footage for me, because I am racing again this weekend, and it is my favourite race of the year, which is the 6-hour Burkitt relay race at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. Regular viewers of the channel who kind of keep up with my racing will know what it's about, but for those that don't, it is, as I said, a 6-hour race, team event. So you run as a team, a relay team, which means you and the idea is to complete as many laps as you can within the time limit, which is, as I said, 6 hours. So one car goes out, will do their stint, then as they come into the pits, we'll do it this way, as they pass your garage, they then peel off into the paddock and the next car goes out. So you're handing over the baton, as it were, like a relay race, and you rinse and repeat for 6 hours. Now we do it every year. This will be my 6th time I've done the Burkitt relay. We have won our class for the past 3 years. We're going for the 4th class win on the trot. It gets more and more difficult every year. I love it because you are racing other people, and you do get into little battles on track, but mainly you're racing the clock. Now, it's a hard 6-hour limit. And what we mean by that is that once the clock reaches 0, it's however many total completed laps you've done. So, and that doesn't include the lap that you are on. So you've got to kind of work backwards in your timing. So you cross that line, cross the timing line to complete a lap at 5 hours and 59 minutes and 59 seconds to make that lap count. So last year, I think I was roughly halfway around the lap as the clock hit 0. So that lap I was on didn't count. It's a really interesting one. And it's the one feature of the race that I find really interesting is that any team can win, regardless of how fast your cars are, because it is a handicap race. So what they do, the organisers, they look at every team and they work out, well, which team is the fastest? Which team is going to complete the most laps in 6 hours? And let's pick a number out of the air, 150. So let's say we think in 6 hours of racing, team 1 will complete 150 laps. Then they will look at the next team and think, well, actually in 6 hours, we calculate you're only going to do 148 laps, right? So we're going to give you a 2-lap head start. And so the idea is by the end of 6 hours, you should, in theory, all be on the same lap, even though you might not be. And therefore, the team that outperforms that is the winner, and so on and so forth. Our team, we normally get somewhere between 34 and 37 laps head start over the really fast teams. And as I said, for the last 3 years, we have won our class. It's also really fun for me because it's one of the only races of the year that I get to put my slick tyres on. So semi-slicks back in the van, get the slick tyres on, and oh boy, they are fun. The grip, especially for a low-power car like mine, is unbelievable. It's like a cheat code on a computer game. The amount of grip that you have, you can take corners flat that you'd never take flat before. The braking is insane. Cornering, the G-forces, I easily pull half a G more than I usually do. I'm hoping to push that even further now because I've got a new setup on the car. So, if you are interested in watching, there is a live stream of the event. Unfortunately, because of the handicap system, the length of the race, it is quite difficult to follow. We are Team 22, so if you do want to tune in and watch, I will put a link to the live stream in the video description below. The race starts at 11:45 on the dot and finishes at 5:45 on the dot, which is a couple of minutes before sunset. And I always do the final stint. I do a stint halfway through the race, and I do the final stint, about an hour at the end, which is called the sunset stint. And looking at the weather, it's going to be blue, clear skies with the sun setting. And this time of year, the sunsets are amazing. It is my favourite stint of the year. Silverstone Grand Prix in the dry, on slicks, in the sunset. It's brilliant. A couple of years ago, I did that. It got darker quite quickly, and it was raining, and my car doesn't have lights. So I was driving around in almost pitch black in the rain. Yeah, very, very tricky. But I absolutely love it. So fingers crossed we'll get a fourth win. If you want to tune in, please do so. Live stream link in the description. And I shall, wish me luck.